Well, I guess, have you ever wondered, what's your life going to look like after you graduate from college? I personally have to admit, I actually had no clue. No clue what I'm going to do, even like sometimes the next year. I was basically just taking one step at a time. And this is what's going to be the focus of our session here today. From campus to CEO, what happens once you leave university and maybe take on that big role? So we're going to interview an amazing CEO and have her take a look back as if she were to be back in that classroom and kind of revisit what really happened, what went through her mind as she studied, left university, and took on that big CEO role. So I'm here today with Lisa Cork, who also works at Cal Poly. So we are colleagues at this amazing university that really has that learn by doing. And of course, there are going to be some amazing questions. So audience, you better stay tuned because you're going to take away some true nuggets of wisdom that might shape your future career. So let's get started. Thanks so much for being here, Lisa.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Oh, and of course, first of all, why don't you introduce yourself really quick to the audience so they get a little bit better understanding, really, like you're here now, but where do you live part of the year or maybe most of the
year? Some of the year? Absolutely. So I'm Lisa Cork, and I am the CEO and Chief Strategist at Fresh Produce Marketing Limited, which has been my own consulting company for the last 35 years. So interestingly, when we talk about where does life take you and can you crystal ball gaze and project, I had no idea when I graduated Cal Poly Ag Business in 1988. Number one, that I would end up immigrating to New Zealand in 1993 and living there basically full time. I had no idea I would become CEO of my own strategy company. And I had no idea, but I always had a dream that I would actually end up back at Cal Poly teaching in the department that literally transformed my life. So for me, it's a full circle moment to be back and to be teaching and to be, talking about what is the journey from college to CEO, because we never know, but it can be just so exciting. And it's part of, just the excitement of life, right? Is what will the journey look like? And when you look back, you just go, wow, what a ride.
And it goes by so fast. And one fun fact, audience, this is one fun fact already. So Lisa was a guest speaker in my class. And then coincidentally, we looked for a lecturer. And I said, oh my gosh, this guest speaker could actually work here. And this is how everything fell into place.
Everything fell into place. Absolutely.
Sometimes beautiful. And audience, first takeaway message is don't underestimate the power of your network.
Exactly what I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the questions. It's a perfect segue to some learnings and observations. Absolutely.
So better stay tuned. Let's get started.
Okay.
So when you were on campus here at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in California, what did you think your life would look like after graduation? What ended up being different?
Sure. So my first passion has always been traveling. So, even as a child growing up, we would take family vacations to the Western United States in an old Ford pickup with a camper. And I was so small and I was so young. My place to sleep at night was in a sleeping bag on the front bench seat of the truck. There wasn't even room in the camper for me to have a bed. So this was always my passion, and it becomes interesting the love you get fueled for something in your childhood, how it becomes part of your life. So by the time I graduated Cal Poly, traveling was a big part of my university career. So I did an internship in St. Louis, Missouri. I ended up doing an internship in Washington, D.C. And as part of how I got to both of those internships, I hopped into my little Mazda pickup truck with a camper shell and drove back and forth across America twice to kind of get myself to and from those internships. So not so much reliving the childhood, but reliving the opportunity to be able to travel and drive across the United States. And if you would have asked me at that time, I might have told you that I actually wanted to be a truck driver. That's how much I loved my traveling across the United States.
So, to the audience, your love of travel doesn't necessarily mean that you drop everything and just travel the world. You could combine professional work with travel as you did very well. I guess aside from being a truck driver at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it was ever going to truly be my profession, but there was moments when I thought, I really love driving the open road, right? I love this trip across America and back. So it's interesting how it connects. So I think, to tie this back, right? My second passion was marketing. And so for me, Cal Poly, I have such a deep-seated love for the Cal Poly AGB program. And, way back when, I had a very special lecturer, professor, who was similar to what I am today. He was a consultant. And because he was doing business in the real world, right? He was consulting to Japan. In the classes that I had from him, he brought the classroom to life every single day with his expertise and his world view. And fundamentally, as I look back, he was a real catalyst for igniting my passion in marketing. So both through AGB 406, which is the class that I now teach today, a full circle moment, but also through his advisorship of the NAMA marketing team. So in 1987, I tried out for the NAMA marketing team and made the team and was appointed captain. And we traveled to the national competition and ended up winning that year. And Sunkist Growers, the fresh orange company, was our client. And again, just that ability to look back with hindsight, what struck me was two things. Number one, my passion for marketing was just ignited in those last 2 years at university. And number two, the NAMA Sunkist campaign was my first exposure to fresh produce marketing, which would become such a big part of my world as I moved forward out of university and in life. So it's just, again, it's interesting for me, these serendipity moments. But it was really a professor who kind of, ignited my love and passion for marketing.
Yeah. So audience, a couple of things. So AGB stands for agribusiness and NAMA stands for National Agri-Marketing Association, which is a student competition that takes place as a central location in the United States. And teams from all over the United States actually come and present a marketing plan that is very much driven by a client, real world based, and of course, really practices your professionalism, your speaking skills, and of course, your analytical skills. So it's quite hands on and really in a nutshell, what you ended up doing as a consultant.
Absolutely. I use what I learned in AGB 406 and NAMA literally every single day of my career.
Love that. So NAMA, agribusiness. Now we got those little acronyms squared away. So what is the hardest season emotionally in the very early days? And I'm thinking about when you started working. What was really emotionally very difficult for you? What were you telling yourself during that time?
Sure. So I think, can I go back one second and connect a couple of dots?
I would like that.
So the interesting thing is when you win the National Ag Marketing Association competition, companies come knocking, right? They want to talk to students who've won. They want to propose career opportunities to students that have won. And so when I won the competition, I was literally approached by a company, an ad agency, a big agribusiness ad agency in Rochester, New York, and said yes immediately. Ad agency work, marketing work. It sounded very exciting, wearing a suit, moving to a different state. I didn't do the research to realize it was this part of the state that gets a lot of snow. That's not very sexy. But anyways, at the time, it sounded amazing. So, fast forward after graduation, I went to Europe for 3 months as a part of a planned travel experience. But what happened in Europe was, number one, I hitchhiked around a lot of, Ireland and England, fell briefly in love with an Italian in Italy, but spent a lot of the summer in, shorts and a t-shirt, and suddenly realized that I'd taken a job in an ad agency in New York where I was going to have to wear a suit and nylons every day, high heels every day. And this West Coast California girl was going to have to live in this really cold part of New York State. And something changed in me.
I have to add something, audience, because at the beginning, when we practiced this is a little teaser takeaway. Shirts, shorts, and what was really the fun part about living in Europe?
You're a rascal, right? Well, so shirts and shorts, and possibly there was a few days when I was braless, right? So the contrast between that and a finely tailored suit, nylons and heels, quite a different expression of choice around fashion.
Yeah. Yeah, I can completely see the freedom you experienced in Europe to a very different professional environment that would feel like very much of like living in a closet without a window and air and anything like that. I totally get it. Absolutely. So what you always want to think about, audience, is sometimes we have these ideas, but once you really leave campus and you experience the world, those ideas are not that attractive anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened?
And I think you make such a valid point, because you know what struck me was, you know, in the moment, this opportunity seemed amazing.
Yeah.
And then coming back from Europe, it was no longer amazing. And here I think was a really catalyst moment that your listeners may enjoy is don't be afraid to undo what you've done. And so I came back and I went, I can't do that. And I know that it was the responsible thing to do. I know that it was the thing that everybody was congratulating me on. Oh my God, New York ad agency. But don't be afraid to undo what you've done. And I realized I couldn't do it. So I called them up and said, I'm not coming, which then left me, post Europe with a few bills to pay and suddenly with no job.
But you had the bra back.
Yeah. I mean, of course, when you were back in California, that kind of had to become back, the normal part of the clothing attire, right?
Love that. So, and that's audience, that's maybe like another big takeaway moment. So you think big goals, you're at the university and you want to start this prestigious life, maybe living in New York City, ad agency, etc. And then all of a sudden what you realize that you changed after you graduated. And I think that's really important. So always think while you're at the university, you're like a sponge and assimilating everything, but you also change from who you were while you were a student, because you really all of a sudden really start tapping into your passion. And I think that is so important that we think we are not the same person really than, who we are, and that we actually give ourselves permission to change our dreams.
Absolutely. Because we never know what's coming next.
No.
Right. And so for me, suddenly unemployed, but what happened 2 weeks later changed everything. So in San Luis Obispo, was sitting on a porch of the house where I was living, and a former peer, we've talked about networking, right? Our peers are so valuable when we leave school, and we'll talk more about networking later. But a peer of mine from university drove by, and he knew I was off to Europe and had seen me for the first time. And he said, what's happening? And I'm like, well, I've not turned down the job in New York, and I'm, unemployed. And, what are you doing? And he's like, I've gone to work for the most amazing company. And they sell fruits and vegetables, if you can believe it. They sell fruits and vegetables. And it's like trading stock, but we're trading in produce. And he's like, we're hiring. You should come down and spend a couple of days and see what you think. And that one 30-minute conversation literally changed my entire life.
Beautiful.
And led to the career I have today.
Beautiful.
In that moment.
I can actually see that in front of my eyes right now, sitting on that porch, having that conversation, and all of a sudden, you nearly like feel there's a voice that says, I think there's something there, right? Yeah. To where you nearly get excited about it, but at the same time, you don't know exactly where it's going. And that's sometimes beautiful too, because we don't need to overthink it. Sometimes it's just going for it. And it sounds like you just went for it.
Sometimes you just have to say yes to the opportunity that knocks.
Yeah.
Right.
A beautiful thing. So like I sometimes have students that are like, I just don't know what to do. And I sometimes tell them, just pause And then just kind of like feel it out. There might be opportunities that are knocking, as you just mentioned, and you just totally ignored it because you're so focused on moving forward that the pause is actually sometimes what really leads to that next movement.
Absolutely. Or you're so focused on where you think you should be that you don't take time to really understand where you may be destined